We want to be a zero follow-up organization, because what is irritating for people is, a manager to manage his own anxiety, coming and asking every 1 hour what happened, right? So now you have to do the work and you have to keep your boss informed of what is the progress and what is the status, right? So if we have to be zero follow-up, then people have to know when to ask for help.
Welcome to another edition of ContraMinds. In this episode, I am in conversation with Kumar Vembu. Kumar is the founder and CEO of GoFrugal, one of India's leading ERP solution companies for retail, restaurant, and distribution businesses. Today, GoFrugal has a global presence with customers spread across 50 countries. He is also a co-founder of Zoho Corporation, one of the world's leading companies in the domain of online productivity tools and SaaS applications. Kumar has started, scaled, and built both Zoho and GoFrugal without any external funding. He's one of the smartest and the most humble people in our industry today, and it was an absolute pleasure to interview him on this podcast. Over to my conversation with Kumar Vembu. Hi, Kumar. It's great to have you as a guest in my podcast, and your accomplishments are absolutely phenomenal. Building a product company which is respected globally, being one of the early founders who did that, then building a product company for India, looking at building a huge movement around startups. I think anything that you do, you take it up with a lot of commitment and conviction. So it's all something that people look up to you as a mentor, as an advisor, as a guru, I would call it. And thanks for joining. And I'm sure this conversation is going to have a lot of learnings for all of the people who are listening into this conversation.
Thank you, Swami. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of your podcast. Thank you.
So, Kumar, what I wanted to really focus on first is really what I believe you've done phenomenally different and phenomenally, something that others have not done is I was just looking at this early, building of, when you did Zoho. One of the points that came up was you were running the India Development Center, and you did something which is very contrarian, which is picking up people who probably would not want to join, say, a startup or a smaller Indian company, and you built it into a 200 member team, and that is something that I don't think many companies at that time did. What made you think differently, and what was the reason why you did that? Because it has had a huge impact uh, even today in Zoho, right? So therefore, and you were almost like a person who built the foundation for it, right? So therefore, what made you do that? And I think that culture continues today in Zoho. So what made you do that?
I think there are two things, right? One is my own background, right? In the sense that, I went to Tamil medium school up to 10th. I remember when I, passed out of my 10th standard, all my teachers were saying, I wasn't good at English. So I used to barely pass in English, and at least one in five exams, right? The three midterm test and half yearly and quarterly. One in five I will fail in English. And so all the teachers were saying, in the higher secondary is in English, and I won't cope with it. And I know I am better off joining a polytechnic. So I actually joined a higher secondary school, because I didn't get admission in the polytechnic. So on the last day of closing admission in the school, I joined higher secondary. But I did well in even in the higher secondary, meaning compared to the school standard, right? I finished third in school in 10th also, third in school in 12th also, right? And I went to engineering, and engineering I spent more time playing cricket. And but when I finished my engineering, when I got a job, I understood that while I was always a backbencher in school, and I was never studious, I have probably never done homework, right? Always I would say a little bit of a nuisance in the class. But when I started working, I became a sort of a front bencher in the work, right? Where like people see me as a valuable team member in the cricket field. People started seeing me as a valuable team member in the at work, right? So my own personal experience taught me that academic excellence or academic performance and how people behave and work at work are two different things, right? I might have been a complete you know uh, uh, for the effort I put in, I should have been a complete flop in academics. But maybe because I had some exceptional memory, right? I can just read the book once before the exam and go and vomit it in the exam. I could do well in the exams, right? Without understanding, I can transfer what was in the book to the answer paper, right? That was a skill I was blessed with. But when I came to work, I started understanding everything because I was working, right? I also realized without understanding you can't do anything, and that whole process was enjoyable. So yeah, I would say the whole thing about the company. In fact, when I came back from the US, I felt when I was working in the US, whether it was in Intel or in Qualcomm, too much of resources were being wasted. Right? Meaning, I felt the 4 years I worked in India, I was contributing a lot, very busy and enjoying the work and things like that. In the US, I wasn't doing much, right? There it was very very relaxed time, and most days I used to cook 3 times a day. That's how much time I had in the US, right? And so when I started the company, I know that for every school first or the top 3 or top 2 in the class, there are 38 or 40 students who are laggards like me in school, in class, right? So when I started the company, so it was not a thought through decision. That's what we were getting, and I wasn't complaining because I was one of them, right? Because I know that whether they have studied well or not studied well, if there is a good common sense and good attitude and great willingness to work hard and and be a great team player, I think nothing can stop them, right? Since I was one of them, I know betting on people like me won't be the will never be the wrong thing to do.
So the biggest point, in one of the interviews that Sridhar Vembu talks about is, he says, you laid the foundation for the company. Okay. He says, I never believed that these people can ever do programming, and Kumar literally picked up people, personally did training till the development center became 200 people. And so what's the kind of training you did to those people at those stages? Because literally you're picking up people who you yourself say were laggards. And what I saw in those interview was, I believe you did the training yourself, you built a culture. And this is really very very critical, uh, you know uh, tenet of how you build a company, which the culture then stays on for decades, right? So therefore, what is really the important thing that you did to build that kind of a culture?
No, I think, see, I didn't say, I said I was a laggard in the academics. So I did not say they were laggards, right? Maybe some of them did brilliantly well in academics also. So I wouldn't know. So my point is the academic qualification, right? Meaning whether they were school first or school second, whether they scored centum in mathematics or 60 in mathematics, right? That what did they score in science, whether they got first class or second class, whether they can talk in English fluently or not, these things did not matter, right? So what matters is can they work as a team, right? Can do they have the empathy, and do they listen, do they follow instruction, do they talk back when things matter, right? And do they commit, right? And do whatever it takes to get the work done, right? And are they able to learn? Those are the most important things, right? So because in my view, from the day we hired them, I would say most of them who are still with us, and some of them who left to pursue other opportunities, I have found many rock stars among them, even though they were not they were never toppers in their life or whatever, however they did in academics. Because even I wouldn't know for almost most of the cases whether they did well or not in academics, because we just didn't care about them, right? So now in terms of the coaching or training and other things also, I think there are two, three things I learned in my first job in IIT Madras in the TNET group. Two, three things of what to do and a few things of what not to do. So both I learned in my first job. So the fundamental, and the most important thing is to trust, right? So that means, for example, from the very beginning, we had a leave policy like nobody need to come and inform their manager or me when they are taking leave, right? You don't need permission. You just send a mail to the entire team, because the team you are working with is the ones who are expecting you to be available at work, right? So, and in every action, you show trust, right? And I believe people respond to trust. So and so that is one thing we did well in the beginning. And second thing is all of us are together to learn. So in the sense that it is not like I know everything, I have been there, done that, or something like that, right? uh, See, remember, I was only 25 or 26 that time. So I was not like there, it was not, I have never been a manager of people or manager of project in the 4 years, 4.5 years I had worked in the industry. So that means in fact, one thing I used to tell repeatedly is if we are going to make a mistake, let's do it now, right? Because when the cost of the mistake is low, and when we still have the energy to get up and run, right? So that means that we sort of you can even say celebrated making mistakes. And you know we were every month or every 2 3 weeks, when something important gets done, there used to be retrospections. So this is something I learned in my experience with Hewlett Packard, right? Doing retrospection meetings where everybody can express themselves freely and openly, sets the culture. So in the retrospection meetings from the beginning, in fact, I used to joke in the office that we always plan to catch a monkey, but we end up capturing a Ganesha, right? Meaning குரங்கு பிடிக்க போய் பிள்ளையார் பிடிக்கிற மாதிரி. So we will start with a very poorly articulated goal sometimes also, but because we are so engaged, right, we keep working on it. We find so many improvements that we end up uh, you know exceeding our expectation of what we wanted to do. So that kind of bonding, that kind of working alongside people with that single minded goal of wanting to do the best job, and having this retrospection, where people can openly talk about, like I did the planning. People can say my plan missed many things, right? And where the teamwork was missing, where collaboration was missing, where we made mistakes in understanding requirements or design. So people can talk very openly in those retrospections. So I remember even documenting, in a 10-member team, having 10 12 pages, printed pages of A4 sheets of retrospection feedback, which we categorize, analyze, and put together the improvement plan for the next sprint, that kind of a thing, right? So that whole thing of trust, transparency, mutual respect, and openness, right? And we are all together to learn, right? And the mistakes are okay as long as we learn from it and we won't repeat it again. It is that kind of thing that ended up having a huge impact.
Brilliant, brilliant. So as I was looking at your current venture, which is GoFrugal, and I went back and looked at some of the Glassdoor ratings, and I compared it with Zoho. Okay, GoFrugal is largely a India-based product company, while Zoho is a company which builds products for the global market. And when I looked at the overall culture and ratings, uh, it was very, very close to the Zoho ratings, right? So therefore, here there is an Indian company, and I've always heard you say building a product in India, delivering a product in India is very difficult. I saw the work life balance rating, which was slightly lower than Zoho, but right from the fact that uh, you know uh, all the ratings, if I were to look at it, were pretty much same as a company that's building a global product. So, what did you do in Go Frugal, and what levers did you apply differently in a product company which is actually doing it in India? Because the engineers' expectations are very, very different. Because everybody expects, the Infosys or the TCSs or a global culture which is there. While building a product for India is very, very tough, as you rightly said, the return on effort, okay, is far more lower. Uh, so therefore when I looked at that ratings, it was very, very stark for me, right? And that tells a lot about the way you build that culture. So what levers have you used uh, in building Go Frugal?
No, I think, see, I'm glad you are doing this podcast now, because maybe if you had done it 5 years back, the Glassdoor rating would not have been same. And second thing is, uh, I if you see our what I had written in the Glassdoor about company overview, right? Uh, I actually don't respect anonymous feedback, because if somebody is a professional, it requires that they have the guts to share feedback openly, right? So we actually, honestly, we don't take Glassdoor very seriously, because I found a lot of I can say it's very easy to, for example, you can give a rating for Microsoft or GoFrugal very easily, and those guys don't even detect it and remove it, right?
Kumar, I think I totally agree with you. And I also don't believe, because anonymous feedback doesn't give you anything. But for me, it is an indication of what happens inside the company, right? Because for me, the difference that I'm seeing is the expectation of many of these engineers is I need to have a global culture, what happens in companies, but it is not real. The expectation is not real. But the fact that you have been able to do that, to me, is a very, very clear indication that setting expectations right is something that you have done very well. And therefore I wanted to understand the levers.
So see, there are I think 3 4 things we have been focused on for probably close to 10 years now, right? The first and the most important thing is we are a happiness first company. That means uh, I measure happiness every day. So by in the sense that we have a daily reporting system, right? So that people spend 15-20 minutes reflecting about the day's work, right? And the first thing they report about in their daily report is how happy they are at work, emotion of the day, right? How did they feel? So in the induction also, the first thing we tell every new joinee is professionally we want you to start the day happy and end the day happy, meaning nothing that happens in the company should make you unhappy, right? So that means we I believe this is very very important, you know because people spend 10 to 12 hours of their time every day during working days in the office, and we don't want the friction in their work, right? So that means this is helping us, but just by measuring happiness we are able to understand the challenges people are facing. We are able to understand where people are less productive, or where their effort is going waste, right? And we are able to learn more on all aspects that leads to productivity, right? And improve. So every one of our team leads and managers also look at the daily report of every individual. So if there are frictions and the challenges and the things like that, they go and address that. So that happiness, being happiness first and reporting this happiness in every project they engage with in a day, has really helped us improve a lot of things, right? And the second most important thing we care about is whether we are providing a psychologically safe environment for everybody, right? That means to offer that psychological safety, we are very transparent and open. So even when things don't go well, right? So we used to have monthly all hands meeting before the pandemic, and now we do fortnightly all hands meeting. So 1 hour every week, right? And a few weeks there are question and answers also in that. But whether we do well or we don't do well, whether we fail or we are facing some challenge, or we fall down or whatever, we are very transparent about what has happened, and we also discuss about how we can pick ourselves up, because we are real, right? It's not like we only face success in whatever we do and we don't fail, right? So in that sense I would say, I also conduct myself as a human. That's what I will say. So it is not like the because some places I have seen, the bosses behave like they are invincible, and they will never fail, right? And that is where creates stress for everybody, right? So the moment you are real, I think more and more younger people also want to work with people who are real, right? Who see people, other people also. My boss also has these shortcomings, and he is also openly admitting it. He also, for example, I used to tell I don't know to people at least once a day, so that none of my managers think because they are managers they are supposed to know everything. Because I remember one of my first jobs in the industry when I was working in HCL, I used to feel some of the managers are afraid of facing people because they don't want to admit that they don't have power to fix something, or they don't have authority to fix something, or they don't know something, right? So one of the first lessons I have I learned and I have started practicing is, let us be open. I can do this, I can't do this. We can afford this, we can't afford this. I know this, I don't know this, right? So those things make a huge difference. I think I can really see our people becoming more and more engaged and happier and happier, and that is leading to more and more success also. Mainly I would say because of this happiness first, the psychological safety we want to offer, and what we call a social connectedness, right? It's not like all the work is done as a transaction, right? How do we get to know people? How can we accommodate their aspirations and their context and the situations, right? So those are the things I think that are helping.
Fantastic. So I have a follow-up question on this, Kumar. When you measure happiness first, you yourself in one of the interviews, I heard you say that it's very difficult to satisfy an Indian customer, uh, and you used the word that sometimes the self-esteem itself is questioned. Okay, and when that happens, your happiness first takes a beating. And how do you address those issues? Because when you work for a global backend, if I were to call it, it's very easy because the client on the other side is mature and things like that. But here, the rigor and the hard thing that they go through will be very, very tough. So when you measure this every day, and when you find something like this, can you give me some instances of where you saw unhappiness? How did you address it? And therefore, how did it help? I think it's something that I would like to know.
See, I will first address this, challenges in servicing customer, and the self-esteem point you talked about, right? So I would say, you know, is that something we have control over and we can fix it? Absolutely yes. So that means, from the beginning, we have tried to, take control of that. How do we, if these are all the customer expectations, how do we make sure we don't put ourselves in a situation where we have to compromise our dignity or self-esteem and we have to be yelled at by customer, right? So I'll give you one example. You know, in a retail environment, consumers are picking up the goods, or they are getting serviced, and they have to be billed. If for some reason billing stops, the retailer is going to be wild because it is his livelihood and he cannot serve his customer. Right? Now, the 99% of the time, the billing will stop because there is no disk space. The bill cannot be saved, or there could be a loose contact between the printer in the printer cable connected to the computer, or a mouse would have bitten the cable, right? And so many other reasons are there where it is an environmental problem rather than a problem on GoFrugal software, right? So what we did is, how can we identify, like, okay, this is something which is going to trigger customer and he is going to be wild, and they don't have control over what they speak when it happens. But after they know that it is disk space problem and we service them, 90% of them even apologize, saying, we went out of the way, but they should not have yelled. But the word spoken cannot be taken back, right? So what we did is, how do we identify this 1 week, 1 week or even 2 weeks ahead? How can we send an SMS or notification, and show in the application itself, so that the owner will not miss it, the IT head won't miss, SPOC won't miss it, the shop boy won't miss it, right? And similarly, we also know how many times we raised this with the customer, right? So if there is a breakdown happening, we made the customer come to us and request, right? So every single situation we looked at it as an engineering problem. How do we proactively inform the customer? How do we even proactively remind the customer? Sometimes 3 days before, we will even call the customer and tell, where we tell them, okay, if you come after disk is full, and you want us to service, you have to pay. It will not be free service. You go and clean it up. This is the 1 minute video that is there on how to create a free disk space, right? So like that, we have solved a lot of the issues, so that such breakdowns don't happen, right? Wherever breakdown possibilities are there, can we proactively identify it? Can we proactively communicate that? Can we proactively communicate the impact of that? Can we proactively communicate the service cost if they come after the breakdown for that, so that there is more awareness to address it before the breakdown situation arises? So that is the way we have, we have reduced our work. We have, significantly lowered the incidents where we put ourselves in stressful situation, and put customer also in a very stressful and frustrating situation. so that we are able to proactively manage that. Okay. And coming to your question on this unhappiness and how do we manage it, right? So, for example, we are closed on the weekends, right? But our customers' peak business is in the weekends, right? While we provide 24 by 7 service, our support team alone, some part of the support team which have a holiday roster is actually working during the weekend, right? So now uh, there may be support instances where the support guys need the help of some other experts, or somebody in development or somebody in implementation who does not have the duty on the weekend, right? Our engineering, sales, implementation, for everybody it is a holiday on Saturday and Sunday, except the fourth Saturday now, right? But the support people who are on duty during those times, sometimes they need the help. So I noticed that many times, in few occasions, people would have scheduled family engagement, an outing or a movie or something like that, and because of a customer escalation, they have to cancel that, and they also miss that family outing, but they also sort of they have to face the music from the family members also, right? So we started a project called Project Peaceful Holidays. So that means, why would somebody who has to work on that day, he has to work, but whoever is on a holiday on the weekend, they should never be disturbed. So what are the reasons for which they will they have to be called? Is it a knowledge issue of the agent? Is it a skill issue of the agent? Is it a problem that can only be looked at by troubleshooted by a more skilled person, or only by a developer? And how can we eliminate that? So we did this for a few months, and analyzed. So when we started, if in a weekend, if there are 6 or 8 times in which somebody had to be disturbed, we brought it down to 1 or 2 times, and we put in motion a plan where maybe it will be eliminated, right? Because so when somebody, first is we have to make people comfortable expressing their emotion, even if that emotion is a frustration due to how their team lead is running the project, right? Because many times, you know uh, uh, I have the power to create most stress to my team, right? So whether I exercise my power that way or not is the question, right? So it is true of every level of managers, right? Because so this is one example. How can we take control? So whatever we can control, we want to give priority and control that. And the second thing is, we emphasized on lot of unhappiness is because people have to do a lot of unplanned work. So when they do more and more unplanned work, their planned work is taking a beating. Their planned work gets delayed, and they have to give excuse for delayed planned work, and that is affecting the self-esteem of people, right? So how can we come up with a better and better plan? So that these are all 1 week, 2 week plan. In a 1 week period, if we can't do 90% of the time only planned work, we cannot anticipate what unplanned work will come in a 1 week window, 2 week window, then it's not a healthy thing. We are only reacting and jumping up and down, right? So we put lot of emphasis on planning, so that 60-70% of the people can work and complete their work as per the plan, and they have a say in the plan from the beginning. So these things improve engagement, increases ownership, increases the commitment, right? And by and large make people happier.
I have seen that work in a, you know GDC, which is a Global Development Center. But typically, the client on the other side in India, your retail client or whatever, has to be as planned like you, because the unplannedness of somebody else affects my planning, right? Which is where this unhappiness or peaceful holidays project typically has an issue. So therefore, how do you address that? Because this is real in India. What you are talking, is real in India. It's great if you're running a global process, it's great. But when you do it every day in India, the fact that it is amazing that you have done something like this. How do you plan that? Because the client is unplanned, your retail client is unplanned. So how do you really build that bridge to ensure that it happens?
No, actually, see, there are two things, right? One is people who are in the role of responding to customers. So, for example, if I have a support team member, their job is to respond to customer. They don't know who's going to come for support, what they are going to come for today. But we know that our based on historic averages and how the support lead is support incidents are trending, right? What is whether it is in an increasing trend or downward spiral, what kind of things are coming. So, for example, today I know for this product, time wise, hour wise, if I plot, this is how the graph will look like. Today is a Friday, right? And we have done the shift roster to handle that load, right? So we know the typical average service times, to we know how many customers will come and things like that. So we have we know, for example, if today current shift is having 8 people, we know 6 people are enough to handle the support volume, and we will have 2 people to do some you can say some identifying or making us more proactive for certain other incident, or eliminating certain support incidents, or doing making something as a self service. Those kind of work these 2 people will be working. And if there is a critical issue that shows up, or if there is a there is a long something that takes a very long time comes up and one guy is engaged, these guys can be asked to drop what they are doing and go and attend to support. So there is one plan for how do we manage development and marketing kind of work. There is another plan for how the sales guy and support person and the customer success person work, right? Because in customer success and sales, while they may do some inbound will be there, their work 60% will be outbound engagement that is already planned, and 30-40% will be the inbound call that customers may be calling, which they have no control over. Similarly, in support, maybe 100% of the time they react or respond to what is coming, but we know the load in both the cases, so we manage that.
So, one thing that I'm picking up is uh, the way you therefore manage the company literally is data driven, right? Because it looks like you look at the number of support incidents that come in, then you look at agile product development. So, a lot of things is data driven. So, do you bring different sets of data together and then look at it on a regular basis? And how often do you look at it? And how do you ensure that people are aware of these issues?
Actually, I would say we are number one emotion driven, number two data driven. So what and we validate one with other, right? Because, for example, uh, like I have had this conversation with people who are in pre-sales, right? When they say I have made, every day I have to talk to 60 different customers, and each call is about 15 minutes. But when the data says they have actually made 30 calls and each call is only 2 minutes, right? So there is a gap between this perception and reality, especially when so we make every individual actually face the truth like this, because if you do 30 calls at 2 minutes average, and you think you have done 60 at 15-minute average, then your job is a burden for you. So the burden is not on the call you are making, but the burden is in your mind, right? So either you have to correct your mind so that you can actually acknowledge the real truth and real experience, or you basically, if it is too much of a burden, then find something else. Because in the interview, people say they love talking to people, but after 1 or 2 weeks in the job, their love is shown in the perception or the feeling they get about how many people they talk to and how long they talk to with each one, right? And what the data says. So the most important thing for me, always been how do people feel rather than what the data say, right? Because a lot of insights you get when you ask people how do they feel, right? The data can be used to validate that, right? See, finally, I would say one of the most important thing we do, in fact, to even our Glassdoor rating or all the other things, is making everybody more self-aware, right? So, for example, when something happens, the first thing we ask is whether that individual understands where the mistake happened without me telling. Right? So, am I able to do a root cause analysis myself? Am I able to come up with what I should have done differently? Right? So, if that self awareness is there and the commitment to improve that is there, we don't have to manage them at all. We just have to give them the time and space and the coaching that is required. Right? So, we focus on building the self awareness in all aspects of the work we do. So that means the management is number one. How do they feel, right? And what does the data say? We then talk about to the one truth.
Which brings me to the next question that I had, which is, there is something we talk about, which is the education work gap, where you really say that college does not teach what happens at work, and therefore the work ethic itself is a real issue that you face in an organization where the person has not been taught in his life prior to starting work about responsibility and accountability itself, right? So therefore that itself is a, I thought was quite telling when I heard it. So therefore, how do you build this responsibility and accountability for somebody who's not been taught this for 18 years? Suddenly at the age of 21 they come into work and they're talking about responsibility and accountability. The person has to change his mental makeup. So how do you build it, because this is very, very important in building that culture that you have built.
See, the thing we do is we give them the responsibility on day one, right? So in every role, for example, one thing we have even in our induction, right? uh, First of all, the word training is banned. So from day one, the person will be treated as a professional, right? So, and from day one, they have to contribute something to the team. So if somebody joins in a new role, it is not like they will not face a customer for 3 months or something like that. Or if a developer joins a new role, it is not like they will not start contributing to the product for the first 2 months or something like that. So we bring that responsibility by asking them to contribute on day one, right? So that way what happens is since there is an environment of helpfulness, right? So the moment they want to contribute, they may need to know certain things, they may need to ask help with certain people, right? So then they start asking for help, they see other people doing, then they do it, they understand where they are, right? So because we give them that responsibility on day one, the environment is more sort of self-selecting, in the sense that people who enjoy that responsibility and can handle that responsibility are with us on the 181st day, and people who don't want that responsibility, and the people who think they can come in, do what they are told to do and get out, right? They find this place to be a wrong place, right? And but having said that, in our interview process also, we give lot of importance to the ownership mindset in assessing whether somebody has that ownership mindset.
So how do you find that?
Yeah, see, uh, we have what is called a skill assessment and a learning capability assessment round. For example, if it's a salesman, right? We ask them to sell whatever product they can best sell. If they have experience, right? Whatever product they can best sell, we ask them to sell that to us. So during this we actually push the person, right, and ask various questions. For example, I'll tell you, we have one question, like, it's an angry customer sending a mail, and it comes to you. You are the person who have to respond to that question, right? So when we give this kind of question, is part of the test we give to all the college graduates, freshers, right? Surprisingly, that question, it's a four line by the customer, upset customer, but that four lines, in my view, there are six things for which a proper response will include six things. 6 points of response are there in that. But 80% of the college freshers will actually say there are some problems in my support team. Our management is hiring another support team. Once the new support team is hired, you will get a better service. And another 10% will say, we appreciate your problem. We are working on a new release of the product. Please hang on. We will give you the new version free to you. Right? Only 1% of the students will actually say, I take responsibility, and I will come up with a plan, or I will come back to you on by when we will address your concerns. But I am responsible. From now on, you can reach me. So it's a simple four-line, escalation mail by a customer. In fact, I have read probably 2,000, 3,000 responses by students, and it's hilarious to read some of the responses. How can people think like this?
Great, great. Uh, so, one of the things that I found interesting, Kumar, is you talked about digital transformation of your own company, and you said we had 5 levels in our company, and once we did the digital transformation, we have broken it down to 3 levels, and there is no full-time manager in the company today. So there is only a uh, you know uh, there is only a player, a coach, a mentor, and that's really how you have changed it. So talk to me about how digital transformation affects the culture, and how this change has been enabled in the organization. This is a very, very important insight that I got. I wanted you to talk about it.
See, I think there are two, three things, right? Uh, when we started doing this, so this, along with that, measuring the emotion and addressing challenge, and all the happiness first, everything happened parallelly, right? That means the stated intent is that, every team member in the company should have a frictionless experience. We don't want friction in doing your job. And only if internally we are frictionless, we can give a frictionless experience to customers. Right? We cannot have a lot of obstacles and challenges and huge friction in how we do the work internally, and for the outside we cannot give a totally frictionless experience. So that means this ownership mindset is important. Identifying where there are frictions. So we did a lot of process re-engineering, and how to empower the people, right? Because many times friction is caused, or work is paused because I'm not empowered. I have to go and take approval, or I am waiting for somebody to tell me the go ahead or something like that. So how can we make people empowered, right? So how much additional responsibility or authority we can give people in responding to a situation. So we looked at all that, and how do we make sure information is available at fingertips for people to make decisions, in our mobile app, right? So how can we, what are all the things we are doing outside of the system, right? For example, certain communications are kept in emails, or certain things shared with customers or in Excel sheets, or Zoho sheets. How can we bring those into the system so that there is one version of truth in the system, right? And how can we bring a clarity or simplify the role, right? Where the role is too broad, how can we narrow down the role and create multiple roles? How can we create focus? And most importantly, how do we help all the people make decision to say no, right? So if I am doing something which is very high priority, somebody is coming and asking me to do something else, right? So I encourage people all the time to say no, right? Meaning, and then we can have a conversation whether what is, this request that is coming is more urgent and higher priority, or what you are doing is higher priority, right? But just like that, because your coach is telling you or I am telling you, don't drop what you are doing and jump into what I am asking you to do, right? Understand. And if you have to drop it, go back to the other guy who told you the earlier work, discuss why you are dropping, what is the urgency of this other work, right? Keep the people informed, right? And in the process, we came up with I came up with a concept called zero follow up. That means we want to be a zero follow up organization, because what is irritating for people is, a manager to manage his own anxiety, coming and asking every 1 hour what happened, right? So now you have to do the work and you have to keep your boss informed of what is the progress and what is the status, right? So if we have to be zero follow up, then people have to know when to ask for help, how to when to update status, right? So in many of these things, we have made significant progress in the last few years, but we still have, many things to improve on also. So I'll give ourselves a 7 on 10, or 8 on 10, and the 10 keeps getting redefined because of our experience, the depth we can go and things like that.
So this whole thing about a zero follow up, and this whole thing that you talk about, uh, when you really go about hiring and looking for people, you don't get these kind of people so easily, because 99% of the market does exactly what you don't do, right? Therefore, how do you therefore uh, get these skills into because you are a large organization today. You are probably the largest retail ERP company in the country. So how do you really get these skills into people, because you don't get them ready made, right? Therefore, how do you do that?
Yeah, I think, see, I would say there are many people who want this, right? So it is a so when we do lateral hire, for some of them there is a cultural shock, right? Because they have always, see, one thing with many experienced people is that they want somebody else to make the decision, right? So, but for example, over last 7 8 years, if somebody has a problem, you know I have a policy that what is your recommended solution. So you have to tell me three recommended solution and which is the best solution and why. If you are not able to decide between the three, or you want a validation of which one you recommend is the best, then we have a discussion, right? In fact, surprisingly, 90% of the problems don't come to me now. Last 5 years, I would say, right? Because the moment we tell them, no, don't, in fact, I say, don't be a victim, be a victor, right? The victim mindset is to come crying saying I have a problem. The victor mindset is, find the solution, talk to the people who can help you implement that solution and get the, solve the problem. In fact, we talk about this cow in the ditch story, right? So basically, when you see a cow in the ditch, right, there are three four kinds of people. People walk past the cow in the ditch as if they didn't see it, right? And there are people who may call others to help, or inform others that there is a cow in the ditch, help and move on, right? And third set of people are, they put in the effort to lift the cow out of the ditch. And the fourth set of people are those who not only take out the cow out of the ditch, but also make sure they cover the ditch so that no more cow falls in the ditch, right? So we tell people we want all our people to be the fourth type. There are too many ditches here and there are many cows in those ditches also, right? So for God's sake, don't just walk past the ditch, as if you have not seen it. Report it, right? Because if you want this place to be better, it's not going to happen by magic, right? 1 year later, if you say this place is still bad, you are equally responsible, right? So that is the ownership mindset. That is the attitude we want to see in people, right? So for all problem, in fact, I tell them, every problem that is there in the company, I am not the only one responsible for it. All of us are equally responsible, because you have poor sensitivity, right? If the problem is so damn important, we have all the resources, all the time, all the energy, everything is there. Why don't we then say it has to be fixed? So that is helping in, so the moment people come in, they see that, right? We try to assess this in our interviews also. We tell them about our culture and this everything. And but when people join, we also make sure the first time they report a problem, we ask them for solution. The first time they share information, we ask them for recommendation, right? So don't share information with me, share your recommendation and why. I will say yes or no, because if you share information, I make the decision after analysis. You put in all the hard work, I get all the experience. So this is something I tell repeatedly to people, right? If you want to translate your effort into experience, you have to come up with the solution, right? Otherwise, effort and suffering are yours, and experience is mine. So these things are helping in people, understanding, right? In fact, some people also, when they interview 3 year 5 year experience in the industry, and they come back and say, this guy is like a 1 year experienced only, that also gives them pride that whatever rigor we are doing, even if sometime it is tough, they can actually, when they talk among their friends, college friends or school friends, you know they feel they have actually grown up as a professional lot more than the average industry.
One of the points that you said, digital transformation, you did not, today you don't have a full time manager. So therefore, what does, say, a senior person in the company, when you say mentorship versus coach versus a player, how do these start playing in development, in product development, in support, in marketing, sales? Therefore, how does this change? Because I think this concept of a manager almost sounds like, if I manage 3,000 people, I'm supposed to be competent, right? So therefore, that is the thing that has actually been built into people's head. Okay, so I don't need to have any competency, but I have to manage people, right? So therefore, for me, it struck a bell, and therefore, I want you to spend some time saying, why did you remove this full-time manager role, and therefore, what do you do to ensure that this happens right in the company?
See, the moment you remove follow up, what is left in a manager's job, right? We have to look at that component, right? Because a significant portion of, see, why, middle management people, see, every time there is a trimming of the workforce or layoff in our software services, people always talk about the middle management people getting laid off. And a lot of those middle managers are unemployable in the industry, because they might have been rockstar programmers before becoming a middle manager. But if they have spent 5 years as a middle manager, they have become an expert in Excel, and they have become expert in following up, right? So that is why, the problem comes. So we talk about it openly to people. We don't want to be like that, right? Whether you are 10-year experienced manager or 20-year experienced manager, any day you are not happy here, you must be able to find a job within a day. Otherwise, it's an insult to me, right? So that is the theme we continue to talk about, right? So that means that it is very, very important, right? If you reduce the follow-ups, because follow-ups create stress, follow-ups create unhappiness, right? So now, we try to make everybody, in fact, we follow this, everybody manages something. So, for example, in a development team, if there are 5 projects scheduled for this weekly sprint, you can say most of those 5 projects, all the 5 projects will be owned by some team member or the other, right? So the reporting manager kind of a person is only a facilitator there. The projects are owned by different team members. They do the project plan for that project. They conduct the stand up of that project, whether it is a cross functional team or within the team or whatever, right? And things like that. Okay. Now this traditional manager's job is to coach. That means if there is a critical challenge, how can he do joint work with the team member, right? How can the manager review the plan and make sure the plan is very good? Everybody's responsibility is very clear. The milestones are very clear. The plan is very agile, right? So the manager spends in, contributing to every project by reviewing the plan, by working as a team member in some of the projects, by doing joint work with some of the people in the plan, right? Maybe by reviewing the requirements and giving feedback, reviewing the test plan and giving feedback. And these reviews and feedback are actually coaching, right? So that is how, because most of the projects also get front loaded. We spend more time in the requirement stage and planning stage and the use cases review, or what we call as BDD or TDD reviews. The later stage follow-ups can be totally eliminated because the team is very confident of executing, and there is visibility on what needs to be done during execution phase, and this coach can take his eye off in the execution phase. So the coach actually spends on, uses experience to front load every part of the work. So same thing happens in sales. So our sales managers listen to recordings of demo, like recordings of calls, and coach the person, or they go to the customer calls where they observe how the person is doing and help him, get coached. So I would say the joint work is very important.
Great. So I'm going to ask you a last question, though I had lots of questions. I think I have overshot that time. So this is largely a culture discussion, which, in my opinion, is absolutely gold as far as I'm concerned. What you have said. You said, as a CEO, as a founder, you resign every night and reappoint yourself every morning so that you don't defend your decisions. Talk to me a little bit about it, and why is it important for senior leaders to do this?
Yeah, I think, see, many times we get attached to, what we already know or what we have already done, right? And the market is changing so much. The customer expectations are changing so fast. New opportunities are emerging every day, right? So how do you, I take my responsibility as, there are, let's say, today 350 team members with us, right? My responsibility is to their career, right? So that means, my first responsibility is, any day they are not happy, are they able to find a job next day, right? That means we have to continuously make sure we are aligned to the market, not only as a company, as a team members also, what we do, right? So that is very important, right? Because that confidence is what will help us build better and better products, offer better and better service. So if we have to be relevant in the market all the time, right, I think we have to spend some time looking at where is the market going, and if I am an outsider, how do I see myself in this new market? In fact, I love a quote by Narayana Murthy, right? He says, progress is the distance between the mind and the mindset. So even when you know a reality, right, your mind can acknowledge the reality, but your mindset will fight it. So when you resign in the night, right, you basically put your mindset to a little bit of a rest, right? You openly look at, where are you? Are you going to be relevant 6 months from today, 1 year from today, 5 years from today, 10 years from today, right? And if I have to be relevant 5 years from today, I know if I am going down the same path, I'll be obsolete in 3 years. And if I have to be relevant in 5 years from today, what should I do differently? What course correction I have to do? What new initiatives I have to start? What investment I have to do? So it becomes easy to make those decisions, right? Because we keep reading a lot of things, so the mind does acknowledge the reality, right, and the future. And by resigning every night, I make sure, I also act on what the mind is acknowledging as the reality and new future.
On that note, Kumar, thanks a lot. I actually uh, loved some of the points that you said. Uh, it's been a brilliant session, and thanks a lot for your time. The key tenet of any company is really culture, and you've really put a lot of thought and uh, I would say a disciplined thinking into how do you really build this. And it has been a fantastic conversation, and thanks a lot for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Swami. Have a great day. Thank you for hosting me.
Thanks a lot, Kumar.
Thanks for listening to this episode. For selected links and detailed show notes, visit www.contraminds.com/blog. Follow ContraMinds on social media and let us know who you would like to see next on the podcast. If you're listening to ContraMinds on Apple Podcasts, do share your comments and give us a rating. We are keen to know what you're thinking. ContraMinds is also on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and stay up to date on all our releases. Thanks for listening and stay safe.